This is the Gen Y Leaders Podcast. Welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast, where we guide millennials to become the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Eric Huey, and multiple times a month, we bring you interviews from high-performing millennials who are challenging perceptions and changing expectations of our generation. Our mission is to help you overcome fear, take action, and go confidently in the direction of your dreams. It's time to start preparing now, mainly because 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day, which will create a vacuum of career opportunities that you've been waiting for. Will you be ready? Peyton, welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. If you could, just tell the audience and the viewers who you are and what you do.
My name's Peyton Warwick. Born and raised here in Kansas City. I currently run two businesses here in Kansas City. One's a recruiting company. We focus on tech placements, sales placements, executives, and marketing professionals. And then we have another, and that's called AUX Partners.
Okay.
Then our other company is called Meld. Meld.media is the URL. But Meld is basically like a digital marketing consulting agency.
Okay.
So I have a business partner with Meld. He's very technical, has over 20 years of digital marketing experience.
Wow.
And we have a small team. We have 5 of us over there. And we do a lot of WordPress projects. We do a lot of website builds, just enhancing anything for a company where they're trying to upgrade or enhance their digital marketing. So it's kind of like sales, marketing, digital, all that is kind of meshed into one, especially this day and age. So we do a lot of that work. That's pretty exciting. We've been doing that for about a year and a half now. AUX Partners, the recruiting firm, we're coming up on this summer will be its 5th year.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. I can't believe it's been already 5 years. But I've been in the recruiting space for almost 10 years, about 8.5 years now. So yeah, it's been a heck of a ride. And I started my career out of college with a big IT company called Insight Global.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're in the top 3 largest in the entire country.
Wow.
It was an unbelievable experience. Really jump-started my career. I had all this energy, didn't know what to do with it, and found a company with an awesome training program, and really steered me in the right direction.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you bring up as far as training, and this is a topic that we talk about a lot on this podcast. But the idea, the importance of training, and that a lot of companies, especially small and mid-sized, that are running lean and always tackling the next project, you really don't have, a lot of times people don't have time to stop and properly train new employees or even employees that have been there for a certain amount of time. So talk about a little bit more about that training experience and the benefit that's had on your career.
Sure. For us, for both businesses, we don't have any junior people. Just because at this stage, we need people that are not going to take time away from the folks that are actually getting things done, doing projects, doing deals, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's
just, I would like to get to that point. At this point right now, we don't really have the capacity to train younger folks. But I was actually just thinking about that the other day, how it'd be good to kind of start bringing in some junior folks and training them up, because we have now our bandwidth is kind of increasing in terms of the availability to train. But going into my management experience, going back to my corporate company, at the age of 26, I was managing 50 account managers and recruiters. So I was I had a crash course into people management at a very young age. It
No
was
kidding.
unreal experience, and I feel very lucky to have had that experience at such a young age. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, but yeah, you work hard, you try to keep your head down, and you try to give just good energy, and do the best you can. And so, with just training younger folks, I think my biggest thing is I like when people they're just willing to work, and they don't have an attitude, and they realize they don't know anything, but they want to learn.
Yeah.
And I really think that's key for younger folks trying to just figure out what it is they want to do.
What advice do you have for young people, coming up the pipeline, or someone who's been in a career who's thinking about pivoting, anything under the sun? What comes to mind when picking an industry? What advice do you have?
Yeah, I just like to use my personal experience as kind of the guinea pig. So when I was first got into contact with my corporate company, I was like, okay, they're in tech and they're in recruiting. I like both of those. Those sound good. And then I started doing more research on my own, and I started seeing that there were these big corporate recruiting companies, but then there's these really specialized niche, smaller boutique recruiting firms. I like that yin and yang there.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had right when I started my corporate job, I always had this like 3 years, this 3-year vision. I was like, I'm going to bust it here for 3 years, and then something's going to change after 3 years. And almost right at 3 years is when I got the urge to go off and start my own.
Yeah.
But so just picking an industry that you see yourself long term in, and
Mm-hmm.
that this is uncapped. The recruiting industry is a $170 billion industry in the United States.
That's unreal.
All I need is a little teeny pie of that, and I'll be really happy.
Right.
So like right now, if I was a young professional, I wouldn't join the oil and gas industry, because who knows what that's going to look like. So, there's obvious signs on the wall for people to see. So, I think another thing is join a company that is going to have good mentors and trainers.
Mm-hmm.
I joined my corporate company because I was told by many other people that they had one of the best training programs in the entire industry. So I was immediately hooked on that. And then when I interviewed, my mentor was a gal, and she was about my same age, and she was a total stud. And I was blown away by how sharp she was, put together, quick. And I was like, I want to be just like her. I want her to teach me everything that she knows.
Yeah.
And so she was a great mentor for me. And I think those are key when you're just getting started.
Definitely. Yeah. I love what you said about picking an industry, because I think that's a huge oversight by college students. So if you're a Gen Zer out there listening and about to hit the workplace and about to graduate, be thinking about an industry that interests you. I think there's far too much focus on the skill sets or, what your degree was in. But I think there should be an equal amount of focus on what industry you go into, because that's just as big as part of it, as you alluded to.
Yeah. And, even though I joined a $1 billion company, I knew that one day I could go off and start my own. And that was what was in my brain when I was 22 years old. And now I'm 31, and I could I always have I come from a sports background. And so in sports, you visualize, how you want the outcome of the game. If you want to score a basket or score a touchdown or score a goal, you visualize those things before you go onto the field.
Yep.
It's the same thing with business and where you want the trajectory of your life to go. And you got to visualize where you see yourself in 10 years, because it goes really, really quick.
So we kind of glossed over this at the beginning, but kind of tacking back around to it, what's your why? What drives you as an entrepreneur, and why the recruiting and staffing industry?
Well, I kind of touched on the recruiting and staffing for me has always been a knack of mine. Like, it's just always, I've always enjoyed it. For me, recruiting has always been like a video game for me. Like, I don't know if you ever played any video games where you have like a quest,
Yeah.
where you need to go find a treasure or something like that. That for some reason, that correlation with recruiting. Hey, we need this exact person with this exact skill set. Here, go find it. And so I always enjoyed that process, and that to me was kind of like a video game in my head.
Yeah.
That's like the simplest way for me to put it. So, and there were times, even when I was doing really good things at my corporate company, I was like, do I really want to be in recruiting? Like, there's a lot of, and we can go into that, but there's a lot of not great things about recruiting. Everybody has really bad experiences with recruiters.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's like with every, you could there's a million realtors everywhere in the world. You don't work with all of them. You work with ones that are great and that have treated you well. So
Sure.
so there were times where I was like, man, do I want to be in this industry? And then one of my buddies who I work with now was like, dude, you're really good at this. Why would you think about doing anything else? Just go and do this for yourself. And I just needed someone to say that to me.
Yep.
And my why is freedom. Freedom. Entrepreneurship, owning your own business gives you freedom. So my why is freedom. And to get
like
more
financial freedom and time freedom and
time,
and all sorts of freedom.
Right. So now, like, I've gotten into rental houses.
Wow.
And so that's something I've been able to pursue. And now I have accumulated several rentals.
Very cool.
And so now, I used to hear this in high school and college, and I hear about wealthy people, and they always say multiple streams of revenue. And I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
And I finally know what that means. And I would never be where I am with, like, just for example, buying rentals. Everybody wants to buy rentals. You talk to anybody, like, yeah, that sounds great. Well, when you are working at a corporate company and you're traveling 3 days a week, or you're working 60 hours a week and you got to be in the office, it's really hard to have something on the side. Yep. It's next to impossible. And I see people trying to do it, and it always fizzles. Yeah. I see people in corporate America, and they go get their realtor license, and they try to, they'll sell like their cousin's house, and they think they're in the real estate game. Right. And then they don't sell another one for 6 months. Yeah. And it's because it takes time and energy and your undivided attention if you want to get these things up off the ground. Yeah. And I think that's also very scary for a lot of people, right? Because especially in today's day, we are projecting ourselves on social media all the time about how successful, how well we're doing. Yeah. So people don't, and for a lot of people to quit their great job and go eat dirt for 3 years to get their business up off the ground, it's a lonely journey. It's not for everybody. Yeah.
My wife is recruiting. I just remember her years ago saying that there was, I think, over 200 staffing firms just in Kansas City alone. So I guess my question is, how do you compete with that, especially when you're getting off the ground and only, 4 or 5 years into your company? How do you make yourself stand out?
Yeah. So if I talk to recruiters that have started a recruiting business and they had no experience recruiting. They were a manager, a mid-level manager, a director at a corporate company in IT or marketing, whatever. They just have done a million interviews, and then they're like, hey, I want to get in the recruiting game. And I've seen some folks do that. Doesn't happen that often, but I actually think you kind of have an advantage there because you really know the inner workings of business, of companies when you do that.
For sure.
So I've seen that route, and then I see other recruiters. They work at a recruiting company, and another one, at a third one, or a fourth one. Then they go and try to start it up off their own. Yeah. So what I'm trying to get to is if you have relationships in place, that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
There's a million insurance agents, there's a million realtors, there's a million financial advisors.
Yep.
That doesn't stop people from being really successful in all those industries.
Yeah, true.
There's a million programmers, a million data analysts. You still got to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
And people start recruiting firms because you don't need certifications, you don't need licenses. The barrier of entry is very small. You need a phone and LinkedIn,
Yep.
and you can start making it happen. That doesn't mean you're going to be any good, but you can start making it happen. I mean, it's harder to become a realtor than it is a recruiter. You at least have to go take a 2-week course or whatever it is. So there's recruiting firms. A lot of them are, I will tell you this, if you project yourself as a generalist recruiter, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. It's
very difficult. And
what do you mean by that? Do you encourage people to pick an industry and pick a niche?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And turn down, people come to us say, hey, can you find us an accountant? Yeah, maybe, but no, not really. Like, yeah. I want when people in Kansas City and the surrounding area, when they say, man, I really need a programmer, or I need a CIO, or I need a marketing person, I want Peyton to come. That's the first thing that comes to their mind. He's our guy that's going to find that.
And then on that topic, how do you compete with, the monsters, the Zip recruiters, and Deeds, and even, LinkedIn to some degree?
Yeah. So a couple things on this. Eric, have you ever put your resume on Indeed or Monster?
On Indeed, but it's been a long time ago.
Like years?
Probably, yeah.
And who were you getting calls from?
People I probably wasn't interested in working for.
Yeah. And I hear that too. So like, a lot of people I talk to that'll put their resume on Indeed. They're getting calls from India.
Wow.
They're getting calls from the coast to relocate. And it only takes a couple calls for that to happen. You're like, okay, I'm taking my resume off Indeed now. Those successful, well-connected, well-respected candidates, they're not putting their resume online.
Yep.
I see them at the bar, or I meet them at an event, or however you meet people. And then those are the best people to place. The ones you meet organically like that. Or you place somebody and then they're like, dude, my buddy wants out of Sprint. He wants out of Cerner. He's awesome. You should talk to him. Let me know if you have a position for him. Great, we'll plug him in. And so about 95% of all of our placements are friends or referrals like that.
That's amazing.
And so we don't use those platforms because we haven't, in my opinion, okay, there's a great saying. Your network is your net worth.
Yep.
And that rings so true in my industry. And so the more badass people I know, the better, because I can place them. And that's my product.
Yeah.
Like once I make a great placement, it snowballs. Once I make a crappy placement, we're not working with that company again.
So as we get close to the end here, you've had a lot of key points that I think will be some highlights and key takeaways of the show. Anything at a high level that comes to mind as far as advice for entrepreneurs, or anything you want to relay on this topic or entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah, man, I've had this anxiousness for the past couple years now. So I'm 31, and so I think I'm on the back end of the millennial generation.
Yeah, you're like smack dab in the middle, because I'm 31 as well. And there's I just saw an article today from like USA Today. It said the oldest millennials are turning 40 this year. So
okay, so there you go. So I'm really worried about the state of just small businesses. Everybody works for a giant company. Everybody wants to work remote. They want benefits. They want an office. They want a gym membership. They get all these perks. They want a ping pong table. They want a cafeteria full of food. They want unlimited PTO. And it's like, dude, that's not, if you I mean, it's comfortability is what individuals want.
Totally.
It's like the ease of life and being comfortable, and but that's a whole societal thing.
Yeah.
But it's bled over into entrepreneurship. And so like I look around, I don't really know a lot of other recruiting firms where the owner is my age in
Right.
Kansas City.
Both well for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but it also worries me because I'm like, when you and I are 45, are we all just going to continue to work for major corporations?
Right.
Who's starting off like the marketing consulting firm? Who's starting off the data analytics company? Who's opened up the next roastery coffee chain? Who's opened up the next brewery?
Right.
Who's and there's just not a lot of it. I mean, I heard another stat in the beginning of the 19th at the beginning of the 20th century, so the early 1900s.
Yeah.
90% of everybody in the workforce owned a business.
Wow.
They were a shoemaker, they were a cabinet maker, glass maker, whatever it is, a manufacturer. In 2016, less than 10% of the entire workforce owns their own business.
Wow.
So
unreal.
It's unreal. It's a huge shift. So I'm increasingly worried about that. Obviously, for my own personal gain, it gets me excited because my competition, the local recruiting firms here in Kansas City, they're all 30 years older than I am.
Yep.
And so that's kind of exciting too, because like I feel like every year that we're in business, we're just going to get stronger and stronger, and it snowballs, and that's really exciting. Definitely. And the hard part of the business is done. Like the scary, like, oh my God, we're going to make it. Oh my God. I just want people to start businesses. I want people to save up. If you're making 75 grand, 120 grand, you're working at Cerner or something like that, save up your money for a couple years, pick something simple and go do it.
Peyton, where can people best get a hold of you if they want business or personal advice?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, I'm on that pretty much 24/7. It's a great recruiting tool for us. So yeah, just send me a message, or if you want to connect, send me a little note when you send the connection. Awesome.
Peyton, you've been great. A lot of key takeaways, a lot of great insights. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on the Gen Y Leaders podcast.
This was excellent. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the good questions.
For sure. Take care, Peyton. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
That wraps up today's episode. We hope to have brought you some valuable key takeaways. Most importantly, whatever you learned, take action on it. Apply it to your life. Apply it to your career. Motivation and inspiration only come as a result of taking that first step. So if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe on whichever platform you found the show. You can also follow us on all the major social media platforms, or contact us directly at genwhyleaders@gmail.com. That's GENWHY leaders@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Eric Huey, and thanks for listening to the Gen Y Leaders podcast.